Welcome back, everybody, to Ag Talk, Your Story Matters. Today, I'm very excited to be sitting down with Annie Bradley from North Georgia. She joined Ag Women Connect a couple of months ago, and this girl is on fire. I am just so glad that, first of all, you joined Annie, but now you have a chance to tell your story on how you got into agriculture. So, welcome to Ag Talk, Your Story Matters.
Well, I'm really glad I'm here. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to share my story because it is a lot different than most people's stories, but I feel like a lot of women could probably also relate to kind of what I've gone through. So, about in the seventh grade, I met my best friend and she had chickens, and it just really took off from there. I got a few chicks from Tractor Supply. You can't have one, you got to have two. And that kind of set the mindset of having animals. I had a dog, but it kind of set the mindset of having something else besides just a pet. And fast forward, my best friend also rode horses. And that was something that I was really interested in doing, had been. I didn't ever grow out of the horse girl phase. So my mom put me in lessons, and that opened up a realm of, oh, well, there's also cows and there's these other animals too. And in high school, I decided to join FFA, and that really opened my eyes to a lot of other opportunities in agriculture. But our FFA only focused on forestry, horticulture, those aspects. And my jam was obviously like animal science. Like I wanted to learn more about that, but didn't have the opportunity. My senior year, I was our chapter president for a couple years, and my senior year, we got a new advisor, and her background was completely animal science. And so when that happened, we were able to start the animal science program. I was able to go and speak at the cattlemen's meetings and get money to build us a barn for livestock shows, things of that nature. And so I didn't really get to see the fruits of my labor, but I do follow them on social media now. So fast forward update, they're doing great. They're all showing livestock. That high school is got a huge livestock team now. So it's really neat to see like seeds that you planted actually go and prosper and do really well. But I decided that I wanted to pursue agriculture. And originally I was going for ag education. But I realized that during college at Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College, it's a mouthful.
Is that in Georgia?
Yeah, it's in South Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah. And so while I was at ABAC, essentially, I realized that ag ed is great and it is needed, but I would prefer to actually take agricultural classes and not just education classes. That way, if I did want to go back and teach, I could go and take a few more education classes, but I would have that firm foundation of agricultural knowledge. And I changed my major to livestock production. And here I am today. And through that and through ABAC, they've really encouraged internships. And so my first internship actually was in Montana with Montana State University, their 4-H extension program. I was an intern out there in Billings. And then my second summer, I did another internship with Robinson Cattle Company over in Alabama. It's a backgrounder operation. They do a lot of stuff. We spread chicken litter, we do hay production, literally anything you could think of, build fences, like that's what we're doing. And that summer, I probably built like 3 miles, like 3 solid miles worth of fence. And anyway, so fast forward this past summer, I did an internship with Amick Farms over in South Carolina. I've been all over the place in South Carolina, and it's a poultry processing facility. But we also looked at live operations, the hatchery, their feed management, all those sorts of aspects as well. So that kind of gives you a glimpse of my agricultural experience. And I'd also like to share something a little bit more personal as far as my agriculture story. I didn't really know my grandfather on my dad's side at all. And I didn't find out until after this pursuit of agriculture and this pursuit of cattle, like working with cattle, working with horses, all of that livestock aspect. I found out while I was in college that he actually had a large operation over in West Georgia, Central West Georgia, and I never knew that. And so it was kind of, I got brought back to my roots.
Oh, that's so
And
cool.
it is super cool, and I didn't even know those were my roots, it's just something that's in me that was obviously in him, and I don't know him, but I've seen pictures now of him on horseback, and it's really just cool to see that and see, like, okay, like, I inherited something from that side of the family, So I really think I inherited that heart for agriculture, for the land, for the animals that he had as well. So
That's super sweet. You've been all over the United States. So my first question to ask you, Annie, was what was that like as a young woman? Literally, I mean, North Georgia to Montana, that's a long ways.
yeah.
So, I mean, where did you stay?
So I'm not even from North Georgia originally. I'm from like West Georgia area.
Okay.
So even living in North Georgia is also new for me. And then going to school in South Georgia. And so going from South Georgia to Montana for a summer, my sister actually lives in Billings. And so it was the perfect opportunity. So I got to live in her basement free of charge. It was great. And then in Alabama, it was so close to the line that I was about an hour from home. So I just drove back and forth every day. Spent a lot in gas money. Let's just put it that way. And then in South Carolina, they actually provided housing for their interns. So it's really worked out. And like God has definitely had his hand in all of that because it would not have worked out any better if it would have been up to me. So it's really neat living in different areas to kind of learn how different people are. And so in Montana, one thing that I'll always remember, those were some of my favorite memories, I guess you could say. They're so funny because they're so blunt. And like in the South, we like to throw a little bit of sugar on everything. And in Montana, we'd have these committee meetings, and they're the bluntest people I've ever met in my life. And I'm like, hey, y'all. And they're just like, hey. But it was so funny. They're not rude. It's just funny, like the geographical differences that you have between people just based on how you're raised and things like that.
Yeah, the demographics and then, yeah, just personalities and whatnot. I can definitely see that. So, going back to your granddad, I needed a moment to process all that because I think that that's super, super cool.
Yeah.
How did you find out about him? Like, was that a God thing too?
My dad doesn't really talk about him at all. And I was reached out by a family member and was able to get connected. And she told me some stuff. And that's kind of how I found out, and some tidbits from my mom, but nothing more than that. But she was able to share some pictures that are really old. They look really cool. But she's got some pictures printed out that she took pictures of and showed them to me. So of her on a horse, it's on his horse and he's leading her around. And from like I think like the 80s or something. But that's really where I got my information. It's just bits and pieces that I've gotten, and I knew he existed. I knew like where he lived, like growing up and stuff like that. And I knew some of that history, but I never knew about his involvement in agriculture until I'd already decided that path for myself.
Yeah, that's really neat. It's like genetics, right?
Yeah, right? Literally.
Well, I was looking, I don't know if you've seen it on Instagram, but there are these two border collies and they're in an arena and they separate the white ducks from the black ducks. And it's the most like magnificent thing that
Yeah.
I mean, oh my goodness. I've seen a lot of border collie sessions or where they round up sheep and
Yeah.
whatnot, but I've never seen them do it by color.
That's
And I promise there's a point to this. So everybody's like commenting like, oh my gosh, how did you train your dog to do that? Where do you even begin? And the trainer was like, well, honestly, like they're bred to do this. It's in their genetics. Like they naturally know how to work. And I'll just capitalize on that just a little bit more. There's something that you said earlier with your granddad's story that you went back to your roots, even though for a time you didn't know those were your roots. But I've interviewed a lot of women over the last couple of years, and that seems to be a trend that, we go out into the world for those of us who are raised in agriculture too and not raised, but we seem to get back to our roots. whether that's like taking a big corporate job and then finding out or figuring out like, hey, like this is not for me. And I'm one of those examples too. But I just think that's really cool that you got back to your roots. And I can see now too that you are in overalls in your pickup. So you are working somewhere outside. So please tell us about what you're doing now.
Oh, yeah. So they're insulated overalls. And I just want to let you know, I got them at Goodwill for $10.
Yeah, girl.
And literally a year and a half ago, and I'm about to cry just thinking about it because I love them so much. My favorite aspect is that I can wear like my sweatpants under them and it still looks good. But yes, I work for the Georgia Department of Agriculture. I'm actually a livestock and poultry inspector. So this is actually my lunch break right now. And I work at 2 different sale barns and inspect cows as they come in. And then I work with poultry, just regulating their disposal methods and things like that.
Is that for the USDA, Annie?
The Georgia Department of Agriculture.
Okay.
It's 2 separate entities.
Yeah. Okay. So do you have any information on what's going on? There's a lot of talk about the poultry industry right now. Or are you allowed to say that?
I wish I could. I really do, but I can't. My supervisor, when I asked him if I was able to do this, he said, well, tell them they can call the Atlanta office if they ask any questions. I said, okay, I'll send them y'all's way. So we're not at liberty to say, but it's real. A lot of people have asked me, like, is it just something the government's making up? And no, it is very much real. And it affects producers. It affects responders. It affects a lot of people in the community. It's going to affect consumers as far as prices and things like that. So it is very much real. And it has been real for a very long time. It's not just a brand new thing. I think it's just more publicized now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, girl, it's already affecting consumers. I mean, like the eggs are getting more scarce at the grocery stores. And we just actually had, I was super sad. We had a really great company, like homegrown eggs, if that even makes sense, but you know what I'm saying. In Lubbock, where you could go out, you could actually see the chickens, and they just shut down this last year.
Oh, yeah.
And I wince every time I have to pay $8 to $9 for a carton of eggs. It's crazy.
Ooh,
yeah. I mean, like if you want to get the good ones that are local, they're $8 to $9.
Dang, man.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine
in Texas.
I can't imagine that. No, I get my from Aldi's, and it's not too bad, but I have seen the rise in prices. But I think y'all's prices are just higher overall as far as that goes too.
Yeah.
Eggs.
Well, and I can speak a little bit on it just because I've been following it through RFD TV. I know that they did have an avian flu, somebody who contracted it and passed away. And I think it was up in the northern states, but that did happen here recently. So it'll be interesting. And it just makes me sad for the producers that they're having to deal with such a massive disease and just all the stipulations and regulations that I'm sure that they're going through. And that costs money too, right?
Costs somebody money. I'm not
somebody money. Yep.
Somebody has to pay for it. Yep. Whether that be taxpayers, I'm not sure, but I'm not on the books side of things. But it affects somebody. Yes.
So how did you come about this job? Is this what you saw yourself seeing? Because it looks like it's right in alignment with your degree.
Yes. So it is right in alignment with my degree. My hopes for the future, I'd really like to sell beef directly to consumers. That's just been something, I don't know, just placed on my heart for a long time now. So right now I'm in a regulatory job. It takes tough skin to do that. So, and my skin ain't that tough. So
you stay in the agriculture industry a little bit longer, and trust me, girl, you will earn that tough skin.
Yeah.
Well, this is a great time to take a break. Hang on tight. We will be right back with the rest of Annie's story. Are you still thinking about joining Ag Women Connect? This is your sign to do just that. With 3 different membership options suited for every level of business, there is something for everyone. If you've been wanting to connect with other like-minded women in agriculture, then Ag Women Connect is for you. If you've been craving a community of women that you can lean on for support and growth, then Ag Women Connect is for you. We are leading the way in networking for women in agriculture and aim to provide a platform to share everyone's story in ag, no matter what your role is. So what are you waiting for? Join Ag Women Connect today at agwomenconnect.com. Okay, Annie, jumping back in, I want to talk a little bit about imposter syndrome because I feel like a lot of women in agriculture have imposter syndrome. And you mentioned that in your bio. So I'll let you lead and then I'll help you out there.
Okay. Yeah, I think you can really have imposter syndrome in multiple aspects of life, whether you're a mom, I'm sure like even everybody in every field, I'm sure experience that.
It's
Um,
not just specific to agriculture.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it is very challenging though, going to school and you're there we get a lot of North Florida folks that come in that are generational ranchers. So they come in and you feel very, very intimidated. They know things that you've never heard of. Your knowledge is coming from the classroom, before you get actual experience in the real world. And so you can learn a lot from them, but it is very intimidating. And you're sitting there and your head just kind of spins, and you wonder what you're doing there. You don't know anything. Hey, you just made a 95 on your test. That's great. But like, can you actually do this out in the real world? And so I know freshly graduating college or even while I was applying for jobs, I'm sitting there and it's, yes, I have this degree that's great, but I've never done any of this stuff. I mean, I have now after my internships and things, but I don't have years of experience like other people have. And so I still experience this a lot, really. I'm sure everybody does as well. I sit at the sale barn, and I talk to producer after producer as they come up. I chat with them. We'll talk about the weather, and then they'll ask me questions about cows, and they'll ask me questions about this vaccine, or they'll ask me questions about, just random stuff like feeding cows and stuff like that. And I give them what knowledge I have. And the whole time I'm like, well, that's just something I've learned. I've never done it. How am I to tell them what to do? And I think it is really important to remember that it's okay. Like everybody was a beginner at some point, even if others don't realize they were beginners, they were at some point in their life, whether they were 12 years old or 30 or 50 years old, or I guess older than that, you can still be the beginner, and that's okay. Like you have to learn to grow, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's so true. Everybody starts somewhere, hopefully at the beginning. I don't think it's very, very fair for people to step into a role and not earn that, but we know sometimes it does happen. It just takes all walks of life, Annie. Just talking about the imposter syndrome, thinking about, my story is sometimes I get I think aggravated is kind of too strong of a word, but sometimes I'm frustrated because like I'm not out there riding a horse all the time or I'm not
Yeah.
hands on all the time, right? I'm more of a corporate cowgirl. Like it is my job to help people tell these stories and run this and run this company now, even though I've had 30 something years in the equine industry and I went to school for equine and agriculture communications. So I don't know. We all just have to start somewhere and we all need those different types of roles in agriculture to make sure that agriculture is moving forward and thriving. So like no matter what role you take in agriculture, if you're listening to this, like it's needed, right? You're needed, and that you shouldn't second guess yourself and you shouldn't be so hard on yourself because it's just important that we all support each other, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think going off of that too, like I definitely feel that way a lot because I don't have cows. I want cows. I don't have cows. I got a lot of cow knowledge going on up there, but I don't
Yeah.
have and I have cow experience, but they weren't mine. And a question I get asked frequently by producers that I talk to is, well, do you have cows?
Mhm.
You have to say no, and essentially to them, your validation goes out the window.
Mm.
Even though you do have knowledge and you do have experience, and you sit there again feeling like an imposter. But I absolutely understand where you're coming from when you say you have this experience and you did go to school for this, and now you're not in that so much because you have to take this corporate role, and you feel, not to use the word fake, but you feel fake. You feel like I'm living this fake life, and that's how I am too. I'm not throwing that at you, but it's like, oh, I'm living this fake life. Like I'm out here with my insulated overalls on and my buttoned up shirt, and I live in an apartment. How can you be in agriculture and you live in an apartment? But there's, like you said, so many aspects. It's not just like all are needed. It's not just one or the other. And on that note, continue.
Well, I was going to say, you are not alone, sister. I cannot tell you, like, okay, like Krista's raising her hand, or Crystal. And I was thinking about Krista too. Like, she's from Phoenix. It's not necessarily
Yeah,
an agriculture town, right? But like, she edits these podcasts. I mean, my gosh, she has her own modern cowboy magazine. Like, she
yeah,
is knee deep in agriculture, but like, her environment is not agriculture.
yeah,
And that's okay. And another thing, like, I wanted to bring up too is like, I think it's so refreshing to work with people who may not have had our backgrounds or grown up in agriculture, because we need y'all to tell us, what is your insight? Like, what are you seeing from somebody
yeah,
who is coming in and learning this industry? That is so important. Y'all bring, I think you bring so much value to the conversation, and we can all learn from your perspective.
yeah. I really appreciate you saying that. Like, it is really nice to hear that those new set of eyes, I guess, is a good way to put
Mm-hmm.
it, is needed, and it definitely is. And I see it in my own personal life. It is really good to bring in that new set of eyes to look on a situation or a scenario in your operation that you may not have realized as a problem. Being able to provide some outside knowledge that we've learned over the years without the blinders on that a lot of people tend to put on.
Yeah.
So, and it's really nice to be heard as far as that goes.
That's awesome. That is a good point. Like, when you're so focused and you've been in an industry for so long, I feel like sometimes your perspective can be skewed or just very one way, right?
Yeah.
So again, that just goes back to a new set of fresh eyes, and asking y'all too, like, what was the easiest way for you to learn? I think that's really neat. And I want to say to the people out there who are dealing with this, just know that, like, we all go through our seasons, right? So there was a season that I was very heavily involved in agriculture and hands-on and whatnot, and now I'm a
Yeah.
mother and a
Yeah.
business owner, and that doesn't underqualify you or devalue you because you're
Yeah.
in a different season. It's just life, right?
Yeah. That's good.
I love talking about stuff like this because it's nice to know that there's other women out there who are thinking and going through the same things that we're going through. It's an important topic and we haven't touched on it in a while. Okay, Annie, so I wanted to know, like, what you're working on now, perhaps like outside of your job. Where do you see yourself and the next few years?
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure I got like some ADHD going on or something, because I love to just start a whole bunch of projects.
That's
So,
why you fit in with Ag Women Connect, because we're
yeah,
all ADHD
I know.
too.
I do so much. So with my horse, I have a horse. Her name's Fergie, and she's great. We've been working on back in March, almost a year ago now. She fractured her withers, like it's bad. So we've been through that healing process. She was originally trained for barrels and things like that. So we've been getting back on. I didn't get to start riding again until September, I think is when it was. So,
Okay, wait, I have to interject, Annie. How does one break their withers?
well, okay, there's like a whole story. So, well, she was eating, uh, and it's so funny. Oh my gosh, I love my life. So she was out in the pasture, and this was at ABAC. I could keep her at my school on campus. And I walk out one day and homie is just like munching on the wood post, like not cribbing, but munching. Like the post is like this and she's like this and has taken a huge bite. She's fine because, I'm like, Googled, like, why would my horse be eating this? Is she deficient in something? Yada, yada. They're like, oh, she just needs more roughage. I'm like, well, she's got that. So I don't know what her problem is because it's that ABAC. Maybe put a cribbing collar on her. And fast forward, I went to take the cribbing collar off of her like a week later. That was on a Tuesday. Then the next Tuesday, I went to take the cribbing collar off of her. And, it's like a belt. You got to tighten it a little bit before you loosen it up. Well, when I went and tightened it a little bit to pull it out, she sat back and like freaked out on me. I was like, well, that's fine, whatever. Went and did it again. She sat back again. I'm like, oh my gosh, And then that third time when she sat back, she lost her balance and flipped and landed backwards. And it was a miracle she didn't like get brain damage and stuff. But she did have some nerve damage along her jaw and couldn't eat for a couple weeks because it would just fall back out because she couldn't close her mouth. And so she had a long, extensive healing process. But when I tell people, I say she thinks she's a gymnast. So, but
acrobat.
Yeah.
Goodness. Oh, it's usually the most random stuff that gets horses in trouble. I had 2 2-year-olds in a pen together. I mean, a very, very large pen a few years ago. And one of the horseshoes came off. And so I guess it landed upright with the nail hanging out. And the other 2-year-old stepped on it. And I mean, so random. And I'm just like, you goofballs. Like, thank goodness that didn't cause any damage, but it could have. I mean, that could have been super serious. Thank God I caught it the next morning. But yeah.
Dang.
Horses can be funny for sure.
Yes, they can. This is all a side note, but it's just welcome to my life. So when Fergie started eating these wood posts, they told me to put this cribbing collar on her and spray this. It's called Rat Blast. Have you ever heard of this?
Nope.
Okay.
That's a new one for me.
It's Rap, not Rat, because I could not find Rat Blast. It's Rat Blast. And it's essentially pepper spray, but for like horses that'll crib or eat wood posts in this sense. And I sprayed it. And the wind all of a sudden decided to pick up that day. And the wind took that pepper spray, and I kid you not, like directly into my eyeballs.
Oh.
I went blind. I'm not kidding. I went blind. And I was sitting there like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember, was it temporary blindness or permanent blindness? And I inched my way over, there's an electric fence too. So I'm trying not to touch that while I can't see nothing. I'm dunking my head in the water trough, trying to figure that out. But this all happened in a week of each other. And needless to say, that is pretty much mine and her story on how life goes, essentially. And I know you asked, about like where I want to be and stuff. I am planting a garden, so I'm super excited about that. And I really want to learn. I just learned how to make sourdough bread and all that sort of stuff, like literally this weekend. So I'm super eager about it. But kind of where I want to see myself is having cattle and working with those, and in an area of life where I'm able to maybe stay at home more in that regards. So
yeah, because you do travel a lot. How many hours a week do you travel?
I do travel a good bit for my job, but it's all like I'm always home every night. So it's not too bad, but I do drive. I don't know. On days that I check chicken stuff, I'm in the truck the whole day. So there are days that I'm driving a whole lot. So
yeah,
as you can see, I'm in my truck. So
okay, one quick question before we wrap up this segment is, because you're gonna do it, Annie, when you start your cattle herd, what kind of cows are you gonna have?
So I say my boyfriend, but people are like, oh, whatever. No, it's the man I'm going to marry. He's got cows and they've got cows, and they have a cow calf operation, and they do a Simmental Angus cross, and they do pretty well with them. They sell replacement heifers, so and then take the steers to the sale barn to feed out. But when, well, I don't know the exact timeline because he says he's still praying about it. But when maybe in the next, I see it within the next 5 years. Hopefully under that though. So I don't want to
Yeah.
be too eager.
That's awesome. Okay, friends, we're going to take another quick break, but we will be right back to wrap up this conversation. Okay, friends, we are back from the break. Annie, I'm going to open up this conversation to some of the other women who are online with us today. So, ladies, take it away.
All right, you're just adorable. I'm gonna say that. Like, I adore you. And me and you text back and forth. So
Yeah.
you're just the sweetest thing. So we're glad to have you. My question for you is, considering all these experiences that you've had, what are like some of your favorite memories? Like, what are the things that you look back on and that you're like sometimes that you just laugh out of nowhere at this memory that comes up, or one that just makes you smile? Because sometimes we focus so much on like the difficulties of the industry. What are the good sides of it? What makes you laugh? What makes you be like, aha, this is what I'm meant to do?
Yeah. There's actually quite a few moments that I've had of that. One is a funny moment, and it's one of my favorite stories to tell. When I was living out in Montana, I went and I was volunteering they do like trail rides for foster kids or just kids that are out of place and kind of just minister to them and things. Anyways, they needed me to help work some of the horses that were off season, the pack horses, because they do pack trips too. And we had a little Man from Snowy River episode, and I was going full fledged down a mountain. And I just look back, you look back on memories and you're just like, was I really there? Like, did that really happen? But that was one of my most favorite moments. And at this place, at the same place, you wake up and I ate like grits or something, something you can put in the microwave. And do y'all know what grits are?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Just making sure. Sorry.
Cheesy grits are the best, though, with lots of cream.
Yes. I wake up and I'm eating my grits and I look out and the back porch goes literally into the horse pasture. Like there's no fence. And that was just one of my, that whole experience there was same weekend, like within a day of each other. But those moments just kind of really solidified, I guess, what I'm supposed to do. And then another moment that comes to mind is we were cutting hay one summer over in Alabama. And I listened to the one song, it's Come Thou Fount, but I'm not gonna sing it for y'all, but it's some Irish people there, the way that they sing it. And I just remember blasting like that song, and it's a hot July day, no AC, I'm about to pass out, but like worshiping like while I'm cutting hay was just a top tier moment, and just looking back on that and just being able to reflect and remember that. And there's a whole lot of other moments too, like getting back on Fergie for the first time and she didn't buck me off after her accident, and her being the exact same horse as when I left her 6 months ago. Working cows, just moments where you work them and they do so perfect. And it's just like this complete peace, I guess, falls over your life. But sorry, that's a real long answer, but
No, that's awesome. I think they're great, and it's good that you have those memories and things to keep you going, especially on the hard days that remind you this is where I'm meant to be, and we need more stories like that.
You know what you're describing, Annie? This is so timely. So I've been listening to Mel Robbins a lot. I don't know if you listen to her podcast. She's so good. But you are literally describing what she talked about this morning, and that is gratitude. There is a distinct difference between gratitude and thankfulness. Gratitude comes from the heart, right? It comes from the memories that you just spoke of. It comes from that feeling that you get in your stomach, or just the whole vibe, the warmness. Like you're truly have a heart of gratitude for those moments. And I think that's really cool.
yeah, it took a lot of work to get here, but it was not me, like, yes, I was here physically, but it's definitely like the Lord has really played a big role in my life and what I've been able to be a part of because of that.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I love about you.
Yes, that makes it my turn. So first off, love Ag Women Connect because so many similarities here. I think you were me many years ago. My horse is also a goofball. He is 18 this year and he runs around bucking and kicking in the pasture like he's a 5-year-old. Not quite on the weird flipping over of things, but he definitely does not act his age at all. And then imposter syndrome constantly because, we're women and I'm a mom and I work from home and I haven't been on my horse except for like twice in the last, I couldn't even tell you how long right now because the weather is terrible in Texas. That being said, as someone who's just starting out with Ag Women Connect and has like totally hit the ground running and started her own chapter, what advice do you have to young women who are interested in agriculture but are not quite sure, they're fighting that imposter syndrome, right? Like they want to be involved, but they're not sure how, why, when, where, what. So what advice would you have for them?
I think my statement wise, and I'll expand on it, is just go for it. The worst that somebody can say is no. I did forget to mention I worked for the University of Georgia, their beef and forage research for my senior year of college. That sounds weird to say. That last year at college. And prior, whenever I had applied, I had literally no experience working with cows, but I applied anyways. They needed somebody who knew how to work a cow. They needed somebody who knew about forages. I'm like, well, I have a horse and I know what grass looks like. And that was the extent. And they accepted me anyways. And so I think your treat every moment as a learning opportunity and you will be able to succeed. And so with me, that looked like being involved in the School of Ag and Natural Resources and becoming a leader there and giving tours and telling new students about what our school has to offer as far as ag and natural resources, getting involved any way I could, even if I'm not getting paid for it, even if it's just something like my friends have this going on down the street and they're working cows, they need an extra hand. Well, I'll go. I may can only pass out water, but that's more experience. And so you don't have to be the top dog the whole time. You don't have to be this grand person who knows everything. You just need to get out there and do it. And I feel like Nike, just do it, but just go for it. Like the worst somebody can tell you is no. And you move on, rejection therapy or theory or whatever words they say. But it's okay. Like you'll find something else where you can grow. And same, even whenever I worked in Alabama, I had never worked. I mean, I had been around cows. I had at my school, and I had a friend back in high school that had cows, and I'd been around those. Other than that, there was absolutely no reason that that man should have hired me. Absolutely no reason. And he did. And now I know how to build fences. I know the entire hay process, how to make silage. Unfortunately, I know how to make silage. There are too many days on a white tarp in 105-degree weather with no sunglasses for me to not know how to make silage. But there's all of these different things that I've learned, and somebody just took a chance on me, but I took a chance on them when I sought them out. But if I would have been scared, and if for the listeners out there, if you're scared of what might happen, you'll never know what could happen. So
that was a dang good question and a really good answer. I love it. I was just going to say too that 80% of success is just showing up, right? So, going back to what you said, Annie's that's honestly where most of the work comes in. It's just putting yourself out there, getting over that hump and showing up. And it doesn't this doesn't just pertain to agriculture either, right? This is just about life. If you want to learn about something, you got to start showing up for yourself. And it's okay. I love what you said about you don't have to be the grandiose person. I think that sometimes we let comparison get in our mind and we think that we have to be the leader all the time or we have to be the smartest person in the room. That's the worst type of advice. Like, no, just show up, maybe be quiet and ask lots of questions, for a while before you really start learning more about what it is that you're trying to learn. That's what I've done. And it seems to work out pretty well.
Well, and I think going off of that just a little bit, I do think like it is hard for people who are normally in leadership roles to kind of let go of that factor of leading and start following. And there can still be aspects of your life that you're leading, but there does need to be aspects of your life where you're following. It's a good balance. It's not just one or the other. There's a time and place for both, is my opinion.
Amen to that too, girl.
So
okay, to wrap this up, what do you do for fun? Like, what do you do to alleviate some of the stress? And is there anything else that you're interested in, like outside of agriculture? Because I think those are important things too.
yes. So I call them my granny hobbies. I'm very much a granny hobby girl. I love to thrift, like love of my life, love to thrift. I love to do anything with like plants or anything. Like if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see all my plants. I've recently gotten into, because now I have a home where I'm not moving so much. I'm a stable home. I'm going to do the raised garden bed. And I know that's still agriculture, but it's like a different aspect, I feel like. But that really alleviates stress for me. Just collecting like seeds and stuff of where I can, it's like free food, And so I'm like really excited about that because I just cut open pumpkins and I got all these seeds. I'm like, it's like free food. I don't have to pay
I
$12
love that.
So just like those aspects. And I really do enjoy, of course, hiking. We're in North Georgia. How could you not? It's beautiful up here. We've got lots of different mountains in my area, part of the Appalachian Trail. So it's really cool to be able to get out and do that. But also, I do a lot. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I've got ADHD. I take pictures for like a Southern rock band that my boyfriend's a part of. So I really enjoy doing that. And I do some barrel racing events also.
That's super cool.
Yeah, I really like it. I've actually got a show on Friday, or a race on Friday that I'm taking pictures of. So it's really cool. I really like it. So I've got that going on. And yeah, I'm making, well, at the barrel race and stuff, you don't really make money. You're just there for fun. But at the other one, you make money, but it's like, yeah, I'm making money, but I just enjoy doing it, And then, gosh, camping. That's one of my favorite things to do. So we go up to like the Cherokee, North Carolina area. Love to camp up there.
Are you hardcore camper? Like the tent and everything?
Camping. Yeah. I wouldn't say hardcore. Like, we're not like the Appalachian Trail people. Like, they're crazy, like that's to the extreme. And
what do they do?
What do they do? Oh my God. They like, because you'll see them. So when we go hike, like, we'll go hike and go back to our little campsite, and we'll come across all the people that are hiking the Appalachian Trail that are camping out on the trail, and they'll pack everything in. Mind you, these people will go for 50 miles, like they'll just keep walking.
Wow.
Like we've come across people that are like, yeah, I did 25 miles today. And I'm like, never in my life will those words come out of my mouth. Like never. And they
on foot or horse or mule. Oh my goodness.
Yes. And I mean, they look like they're about to fall apart, like they hadn't eaten a meal in 5 years, And I will not be doing that either. I will be eating 3 meals a day. And they'll sleep on pads that are about this thick. And I ain't gonna lie, we take an air mattress. Like we're not sleeping on the ground. We did that our first time camping, and the only reason we did is because the air mattress deflated in the middle of the night, and I woke up with like a pine cone like in my back, through the tent in my back, and that was the end of that. So we will never be the hardcore, see how long survivor kind of stuff. We're not doing that. We're just for a weekend or 4 days or something. So still a little bit more hardcore than a camper,
Yeah.
still the luxury of there's a bathroom like a mile away. So, but.
Oh yeah, I bet it's absolutely gorgeous up there.
Yes, yeah. And the October is my favorite month, so it's beautiful.
When all the trees are and the leaves are turning color.
Yes, it's wonderful. I mean, they have that area has gotten a lot of devastation from the hurricane that came. But they've really encouraged like visitors because a lot of those areas, that's a lot of where their income comes from.
Yeah.
They're tourist areas. And so they're not having people come up because of the hurricanes. And so they're really encouraging people. I'm on like the email thread from the camp place. And they're like, come see us. Like, we need money. We need people to come, like, spend money in our area and boost the economy. So
I'm glad you said that. Well, I was listening to a press conference this last Friday, and they were talking about North Carolina, and they're just saying, like most of their help has came from other states, other organizations, like the people surrounding the states and the cities, and the towns that were affected. And I think that that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really neat to see everybody come together, be able to support each other in that. So.
Okay, one fun question, because there are several of us that do like to thrift in Ag Women Connect, and we talk about like what we find. What is your coolest find to date?
Oh man, okay. Shouldn't have asked me. Well, first, I already told you about the overalls, and
yes,
those make me tear up because I just love them so much. Gosh, the coolest find, I will say, this is pretty cool. I didn't find it, but my friend found it for me and mailed it to me. Oh man, I wish I had a picture of it. It is a leather jacket from like the AQHA finals in like 2009. And so it's got the huge embroidered thing on the back. It's like a teal and like a gold color. It's got a horse back there. She thrifted that, and she found it at the Goodwill bins and got it for like 99 cents.
That's insane.
Yeah, so I got it now. And so people ask, "Oh, did you?" No, baby, I was only like, I don't know, 6 years old. Like, no, I was not there. So, but yeah, so that, and I actually got, sorry, this is a Facebook Marketplace find, but those beds, I don't know what they're called, but they've got the post on all the ends, like the post. Yeah, so this one's like cedar or whatever, and I got it for free because some man said he was just gonna chop it up into firewood. So
oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it's like beautiful. So those
that's pretty cool.
Those are probably my best ones. I could go on. I love it. My boyfriend hates when I come back from the thrift store. But like, look what I got.
My mom used to drag me and my brother and my dad into like all the antique stores. Like, we would go traveling, and it would be like, oh, I want to stop in this town and go to the antique store. And now I've turned into my mother. Well, hey, that's just another way that we're like keeping the heritage alive, is like you continue to thrift shop and you think those things are cool and you wear it and you flaunt it and you use it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
Well, this was such a fun conversation, Annie. I'm so glad that you fit us into your lunch hour. And I just can't wait to continue to follow you in your journey. You're doing amazing things and you're so much fun.
Well, I'm glad I could be here. Thank you.
You're very welcome.